Hello, everybody. What good to be back. And yeah, sorry, I've kind of lost my voice a little bit, so bear with me. I'm gonna try to pronounce everything as well as I can, but I'm super excited for today's show. This is my first fully produced show where I've had the privilege of choosing these amazing two guests. But before we get into that, my name's Akocha and I'm one of the future producers at Somerset House. And this is our digital series, Upgrade Yourself, the process of bringing industry creatives and insiders to share their career journeys and offer insight and advice. To keep up to date with the program, please join our monthly newsletter. You can sign up on the main Somerset House website, link at the bottom of the webpage. During this live sessions, we would love to hear your thoughts and questions, so please send them in to any of the streaming platforms you're watching from, and you may get a chance to have them read out. And without further ado, I'm so excited to be streaming live with somebody from Berlin named Sandy, who is a founder and director of South Burner, and somebody else who is streaming from Edinburgh, who is the founder and executive director of SkatePal, who is Charlie. So yeah, without further ado, welcome guys to the stage. How's it going? Oh, I think you're both, Charlie, I think you're on mute.
Hi, Gocha. Thank you for inviting us, really.
No worries, no worries. How's your day going, both of you? Chilling? Good. Well, without further ado, should we kick off with your presentation, Sandy? Super excited to see what you've been up to in the last 2 years.
Sure. I would love to share that with you guys.
Perfect. All right, I'll see you in a bit.
All right. All right, guys. So I'm really honored today to introduce myself and my project, Ghana. So to let you know, my name is Sandy Alibo, and I'm the founder of the collective. I founded that project actually in 2016, and the idea was to highlight skateboarders, but also surfer in Ghana. It was also a project to really improve Black representation and even African representation in board sport in general. And what I wanted to share with you today, it's more my journey with the structure, the collective structure. It's also a term that people use more and more, often in art, in music and sport right now. I think it's a global movement. I think it's the collective is booming everywhere. And today I wanted to highlight that structure because I think it's really the future of Africa, especially for the youth. And I just wanted to introduce that today. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. So for example, what is really interesting for me is to express like what is a collective to compare to an NGO. It's more like, I feel like everybody is aware that they have a kind of power that they can use to grow together. So I feel for me, for example, that in a conventional NGO, it's more like, okay, everybody's doing something. You have volunteer, you have a president, you have an assistant, but in the collective, everybody is responsible for something. That's why I really, really like it. And it's also a way to involve a lot of young creative at different level. And I think it's really more efficient to grow that way. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. So that's a photo of us, at National Theatre. It's the place where we skate. I think it's really interesting, that photo for me, because Ghana has the most progressive skate scene in West Africa without having a skate park. And I think it's really interesting to see that from digital perspective, we managed to grow a community with tools like WhatsApp, with Instagram, with Facebook, etc. Try to connect and build a community without having a sponsor, etc., etc. So that photo, it's a representation of. It's the day where we shoot a collaboration with a huge brand, where I invited all the skateboarders to come to Ghana, Accra, and shoot that campaign. So it was really interesting. And on that photo, you see maybe 30%, but we were like almost 50 at the moment. So you can go to the next slide. So yeah, I think it's just like quite numbers, some numbers for you to appreciate the project. It's more like, so now we are really a digital community with almost 15,000 followers who follow us. So it's diaspora, it's native skateboarders, but also tourists, brands, etc. But so far with the collective, we've been able to collect also a lot of equipment to create events and to make sure that all the Ghanaians have access to a skate and surf lesson. So that's really, really interesting. And the difference between other organizations is like we really try to develop entrepreneurship. So our focus is more like 15 years old, 25 years old. Yes, you can go to the next slide. So what is interesting also with the collective, I feel like there's a big movement, like I was saying previously, is that now a lot of other organizations have chosen the collective structure. Like Free the Youth, for example, it's a collective, it's a fashion collective based in Tema and in Ghana, and they develop a brand with different members who do screen printing, who are singers, who are in the fashion industry, etc. Everybody's working together, and I think this is how the brand works better and is more efficient to get access to different brands, etc. The next slide also will illustrate Kumerica. I'm sure everybody heard about it, but for me, it's really an amazing project. It's the drill scene of Ghana really emerging through a different group, and also as they consider themselves as a music collective. So we have different artists, rappers, singer, beat maker, etc., and they're all working together to create the new drill scene, and it's really amazing. So you should check. And also for me, it's really a proof that it works in Ghana. So I'm sure it could work in Lomé, in Benin, in Senegal, etc. It's really a huge movement in Africa that you should check. So the next slide, I will also illustrate the basic pillars of the collective in general. I feel like what is really important is the participation of the youth to compare to other organizations. For example, in that middle, you see Efia, who has a T-shirt that she designed by herself. We wanted to highlight why it's different for women, for example, to skate. And this T-shirt is really an example about all the concern in Ghana, all the challenges we face when we are a woman who want to skate. And so we met at the house and wrote this T-shirt, designed it, printed from, all the whole process was with the girl actually. And I really appreciate that. And it's also a way to explain that they are really involved since the beginning to the end of the project. And that's also how they can grow. They can get more self-confidence, self-esteem, etc. And the next slide, what is really interesting is also to highlight the construction, how we build up each other, So for example, this photo is in the Skate House, a project that I founded 3 years ago. It's a social house where I invite all the skateboarders to use the Wi-Fi, to connect, to work, but also to skate because we have a mini ramp. And on that space, we usually meet every Sunday, and I opened my computer, and this day in particular, we were working on the skate camp. So the idea was to say, okay, what we're gonna do in the skate camp, what will be the program that we're gonna create. So you see Harmony, Vernon, Sarah, and Banger, all of them they are just talking and having a great conversation about what is the program, what will be the program, for Ghana, for skateboarders, for the youth, etc. So we are really like brainstorming, and it's also part of how it's really efficient because it's not my idea, it's their idea, and they are proud of it, and they can share. And even the parents, they understand that it's part of an educational program, you see. But it's not like, it's really organic. It's not really in a conference, in a room where you have the board and you answer to question. It's more conversation, and I think it works pretty well for the youth in general. And for the next slide, I wanted to talk about the networking, I think it's really important. The collective, it's more like, for example, in Ghana, we don't develop only the skateboarding scene or the surfing scene. Is more like we try to develop the culture. And for that, we really wanted to connect with other collective, but also other organization all around the world, you know. And that photo illustrates our first meeting in Uganda with all the Ugandese skateboarders and some Ghanaian skateboarders. And I was really happy to invite for the first time a skateboarders in Uganda. And I think it's really important the way the structure is to connect, to have a cultural exchange, etc., to grow together. And from that photo, we create a WhatsApp group where you can see all the skateboarders from West Africa and in East Africa actually connect to each other, sharing video, etc. And I think that kind of tool really help us to get a network, because for the Black community, let's be honest, in general, is really hard. So having that kind of opportunity, that free tool online, can definitely help us to connect and work together easily. And on the next slide, I think what is really interesting is the shared experience. In the collective, we really value that. For example, that photo for me is really, really sincere in a way in the process. Is like you see a skate ramp. So it was a tourist, Kevin, who came at the house, wanted to meet the skateboarders. And he saw that the ramp was really broken. So he was like, okay, let's try to build that skate ramp. But we didn't really know how to do it. So we download some templates, some draft online. We went to the market together. Some observed, some tried to work. We help each other, etc. It's really, really what I love in the project, and I think we should do that all the time. You know, so the ramp is not perfect. We have to do it 2 times, but everybody learning something, and everybody, you know, grab a tool. Is coming and listening, and I'm sure after that ramp everybody will be able to do another ramp at another place, etc., etc. So I really love the process of connecting native, tourist, the diaspora together to build tools, obstacle in skateboarding. But it's not only about tools and obstacle, it's more about the connection, the global connection that happens at that skate house actually, you know. And on the next slide, I wanted to highlight more like the strength of the collective for me. Let's be honest, when you are just one person building a project, it's really hard. So I'm trying also to explain that the collective, when I post something on Surf Ghana, we have like maybe 30 skateboarders who post also the same thing. So basically, it's more efficient. We have a better reach in general. And for brands, it's easy now to connect with one collective who represent 40 skateboarders that just, you know, sponsor maybe 2 or 3 skateboarders. So it's really like, I don't know, it's really interesting because finally we can reach more people, but also we can grow together and understand that the value of being a group, it's in a way really important and more powerful, even from institution perspective, you see. So we get more recognition actually. So I think it's really interesting. And I think also it's the strength of how we can grow, because like when we started, we were like maybe 10 skateboarders, 15 skateboarders, like we are almost like 100. We skate regularly, etc. And I feel like even doing commercial right now, having brands who support us is thanks to that, you know. And I feel what is really interesting with the collective is like we do not consider us as an NGO, we consider ourselves more as a brand actually. And this is why, you know, the youth, they want to wear the t-shirts, they want to be their ambassadors, they want to connect, they want to join the collective every day. But when you say to them that it's an NGO, you know, you have like the bad routine, the bad habits, the bad vision about the NGO and how they want to support and help. Like it's more like they're proud of the project, you know. They just want to, they would just want to be part of it, like they will be part of a gang, or you know, like or anything that they can be proud of it. So I'm just like, I'm really excited about every day because they have idea, they want to grow with that collective, you see, and they're really proud, even the parents, the school, the friends, the family. So I feel like it's really important to consider the collective as a brand when we build it. And for the next slide, what was interesting is to share with you the case study of the Freedom Skate Park, because basically we built that project with the collective as a base, a structure to start the project. And it's also show that this project has been possible thanks to the connection, thanks to the network, but also because we start with a group. We didn't start with just one person with one idea. We start with like a group, some native based in Ghana, connecting with architect, connecting with fashion brand, connecting with so many people, and we are coming together to build a sustainable project, you see. So for the next slide, what we can understand is how it works. I think it's really interesting to explain that in that process, it's really a responsible process of production. It's different from, okay, I have like a powerhouse, we decide everything, and you just share it. No, it's more like, okay, we have conversation with everybody, with brands, with skate park builder, with ambassador, with native architect, etc. And all together, we decide to do a project who's going to benefit the youth, first. The common goal is, we have a common goal, you see. And I think that's also why the collective is proud to compare to other projects, because they are the base, they are the structure who initiate the project, and the brand are listening, the brand give us advice, but we are still the leader, So I think it happened because we are a collective, actually. And the next slide, I wanted just to share with you some tips. It's really interesting because I know that maybe our audience would like maybe to build a collective in the future. And I feel like what is interesting is like in the collective, I make sure that everybody is proud of what they're doing. They're part of it, but we decide together, so we are proud of it. After that, I was insisting about building a brand. And for me, it's like, I want to wear that T-shirt every day. I want to be an ambassador, After that, a collective give value to everybody. We have a filmmaker, we have a writer, we have a photographer, we have an event manager. And even if you're a beginner, it's really important to don't underestimate people, in general, because the youth, they have a lot of idea. They are multi-talented, and it's really important to consider them. And after that, I wanted to say that to be a good collective, we need to be doers. It's important to talk. A lot of NGO talk a lot all the time, but we are doing it. We are trying it. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed, and it's really important. But that's the most important thing, is to have like a good action, like plan, And again, a collective wants to be independent at the end. I don't feel like we want help. We want investor right now. We want that everybody is aware that in the future, we can do everything by ourselves, for us, by us, And for that part, we have a lot of tools in general. People say we don't have money, how are we going to do it? Of course, we have so many free web apps that I use, for example, with the skateboarders, like WhatsApp, but also Pinterest, Google Drive, everything. All the free web apps will exist already, will help definitely the community, especially in Africa. And after that, I just wanted also to tell you that it's really important to test and learn all the time, everything that we are doing. I don't want you are afraid of, trying some things, especially in the Black industry, in the Black community. It's really hard sometimes, but me, I'm not afraid about it. And I think it's the value of skateboarding to try, to fall, to fail, and it's okay. Like, we're doing it again and again and again, So it's like perseverance. And I also believe in working organically. We don't get the success. It's been 5 years, that project. And I feel like it's really important to consider that we need to stay humble and work organically with the people, and don't cross the step. And again, trust the process, just trust the process, because we've been working so hard, and now we have partnership. I'm really proud of it, but we start from zero, with zero follower, with zero organization supporting us. And I'm just happy about our journey and meet other people like Charlie today, you know, about SkatePal, etc. So I'm just happy that now we understand that thanks to digital, we can ask for help, you know, and support. And that's the end. So thank you so much.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It's such a beautiful journey. I have one like proper dying question because it's something I kind of think about running my own platform. And it's conversations I've had with a lot of other friends from similar diaspora. And when you showed your collective infrastructure of like you have your sponsors, you have your architects, and you have like brands. How do you sort of like vet these brands? Because I saw like Tommy's Chocolate and Vans, who do completely different things, and also like Daily Paper. So how do you make sure these brands are not being tokenistic in some sort of way? And like, how do you actually make sure these brands are having longevity in their impact and supporting Surf Ghana?
Yeah, I think it's really a great question. I feel like I'm trying to have different brands because fashion is not everything in the skate culture. But for example, Vans for me was really important because it's legit, you know, like having Vans in the skateboarding industry in West Africa is also the beginning of the investment of skateboarding. In the same way, the diaspora, Virgil Abloh, Jefferson Ose, who have the powerhouse of White and Daily Paper, makes sense because they are from the diaspora. And for me, it was really interesting to involve the Black community in general, the African community who understand what's happening here, you know, and having a modern vision. And at the same time, Tony Chocolates are producing the chocolate in Ghana, so they really understand the value of supporting the youth in Ghana. You see, so finally, for the storytelling, it means a lot, but it has a meaning. It's like they are different, but finally we are doing everything for Ghana in general, and they understand that, you know. So yeah.
Interesting. Is there any brands in particular you are like dying to work with or want to reach out to, or we can see on the horizon in the future?
I can't really tell, but let's be honest. So far, we have a lot of interest in West Africa now. Like brands are really interested. They just need a push, a good push, actually, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are on it, you know. Like we just need to have that kind of great conversation to highlight our work and get more exposure, to understand, to identify the marketing manager of every brand and to invite them. I think they just need to come to Ghana. They just need to come to West Africa, spend 2-3 weeks. They're gonna understand straight what's happening. For now, they just stay in Europe. They don't go anywhere. That's why.
Yeah.
But I'm sure for the next generation, it's really positive, and I'm really like happy about what's happening. And yeah, it's not even on the fashion industry global. It's going to be the tech. It's going to be like so many different brands coming, and I'm just happy to see the evolution of the skateboarding scene in Ghana and in West Africa in general.
Super exciting, proper amazing. I do have a few more questions, but I'm going to leave them to the end. And I'm going to ask Charlie, what did you think of the presentation? And if you have any questions you would like to ask Sandy.
Thanks, Kocha. Great, Sandy, great job. I was very interested to hear, especially what you were talking about, the difference between NGO, brand, and collective. And also, I think, and sort of the focus on the people that are actually there, having a voice in like in the way things are going to go, because I feel that's you know, the classic NGO setup, especially in somewhere like Palestine, and maybe you have the same experience over there in Ghana as well, is they can get too sort of like inward looking. And I wondered, like, have you had like, have you seen other experiences or like things where that's maybe gone wrong, where an NGO has like gone down an NGO road too much and not down a collective road enough, which has like led to your understanding of how it works?
Yeah, let's say that, you know, when I arrive, I think you need to work with humility in general. It's just like, you know, me, I'm not from Ghana, okay? I'm from Caribbean, and we share a lot, actually. Ghana, Martinique is not so far, finally, but I really listen to people. I think like the value now is just to listen to what they want. You know, you're not just coming and say, we're going to do this. we're gonna do that. And if you pay attention to the page, also you don't see my face everywhere, and that's the problem sometimes in NGOs. They want to see their own selfie, their own face, to say like, this is me who did that, you know. And for me, the collective is also the contrary. It's like, it's everybody. We are a group, so you don't gonna see the founder every hour. You're gonna see the people who are working actually on site, you know, and that's a different perspective, and you give a role and a mission to some people. So I feel like it's a different perspective, but it works pretty well. But of course, at the beginning, people were saying, yeah, can I take a picture? And when you send the shoes, this way we're gonna highlight, you know, who sent the shoes, etc. We are never doing this, never. So for me, it's like, thank you for the shoes, but I want to create content, you know, like right now, like really good content that people can share everywhere in the world. I don't want to people have pity and etc. I want to create joy. I want to create surprise. I want people come to Ghana, you know. So I hope, Charlie, you're gonna come to Ghana.
I hope so one day.
Nice.
I love that. Right, so I think it's on to you now, Charlie. Super excited to see what SkatePal's been up to. So yeah, take it away.
Thanks a lot. So I think there's a video that we can play now, and then I can start the slideshow on top. Oops. So, hi everyone. Charlie, the director of SkatePal from Scotland. What I want to do is give you a brief overview of, let me just see if this is actually full screening. I don't think it is. There we are. An overview of how I got to where I got to, some of the issues that we face along the way, and sort of some of the things that we've been discussing in terms of building up a community and how to do that successfully. So, and just at the beginning, I'd like to say again how what Sandy's been saying about the NGO brand collective, who is it for and who's doing it, is quite a crucial part of what we do. And I think of what a lot of skateboarding sort of collective or NGOs do is quite a new sector, quite niche and quite new. But I think the nature of skateboarding and its slightly enigmatic position between hobby and sport lends itself to arrive in different places without too much cultural baggage, without too much of a sort of orthodox NGO charity framework, that it can be adapted into quite malleable entities that work quite well within the existing culture, and is not too much of an imposition. So at the beginning, I first went out to Palestine after school to go and teach English in a centre up in the north, due to a connection through my mum. She was working in a church in Scotland that was supporting a youth centre up in the north of Palestine in Jenin. I went out to teach English, but I brought my skateboard as a skater, and the kids were more interested in my skateboard than in the English classes, although I think English classes were okay. So I went out in the street after class, and the kids thought I had magnets in my shoes when I was jumping up in the air. And from that moment, I thought, if someone was to come and bring more skateboards here, they would definitely be successful, because the kids are pretty hardy due to the nature of life in the West Bank. And I hadn't seen skateboarding before, and the culture is very much like everyone getting together outside. So all the key parts of a skate scene were sort of there in Palestine, maybe even like more so than say in Scotland, where it rains all the time. So the first project I did back in 2013 was to build a small mini ramp with my brother and a couple of friends of ours, and we did classes over the summer months just to see how it would work. At this stage, I didn't think of it becoming a thing, like an entity or an NGO or an organization. It was more just to see how it would work, and could I bring things in, and could we build a ramp? And as Sandy was saying as well, it's the local community coming together which really makes things work. And after the first year, we had some older skaters had joined the team. We've got Majd, Abdullah, me in the middle, Aram, who's now our local manager, and May, who's just now studying in London, actually. So this was us after the first year, all hanging out. In the following year, we built our first concrete skate park up in the north in a place called Zababde. And this was quite a sharp learning curve, because I hadn't really planned in enough time before or after, or really, and the relationships with our local partners they weren't all that good in the end. And I learned that we needed to have more of a robust plan for afterwards. I kind of was a bit naive in thinking that things were just going to continue, because that's kind of what we agreed loosely, but we didn't have a strict plan in place. And so after this build, we made a plan of like, well, how many years do we do classes and community work before we do a build, and then how long do we have to stay afterwards before we can hand it over, before we can then say, right, we've done a project. Also in this first build we did, the other issue we had was trying to convince people in a village that was more conservative that we wanted to do it for boys and for girls as well, because obviously in the more conservative places, sport was usually mainly for the boys. And so we did face a bit of pushback here and there, and you don't want to be too pressurizing in a place where you're not from. So you want to respect the culture as well. But obviously lots of people there and the girls were wanting to skate. So you have to try to find a way to sort of like walk that tightrope between not sort of disrespecting or offending people, and also doing what you think is the right thing to do. So we ended up having some girl sessions in the school, and then over time we were able to do mixed classes. This is a build that we did, our next big build, which is the most used park we have in Asira, which is next to Nablus in the middle of the West Bank. We brought a team of half of them are sort of professional skate park builders as volunteers, and then we employ some local tradesmen to do other work on site. And as we go, we try to train some of the local skaters in some of the processes so that they can then continue to do other projects in the future. Here we are doing classes in the park. So as I said before, we learned from our mistakes of not having enough things in place after the park was built. So now we still run classes in this skate park, like more now unofficial sessions and more sort of getting the hype going with the international skaters always coming through. But we had more like official classes for like 3 or 4 years after the park was built, and then handing things over to local skaters who then like locked up, cleaned the park, could maintain all the skateboards and sort of the operations of the park. So here we are on the opening day of the skate park with Aram on one of the ramps. The views out there are incredible. So some of the landscapes make the skate park sites just look amazing. And the hills, there's some huge hills. So like kids going down the hills and hurting themselves was a problem at the beginning, but we have enough protective gear that it's fine. But as I said, if you live in quite a war-torn or like rough sort of situation, you can see the attitude of like sort of grabbing life more and being a bit more hardcore in general really like lends itself to being a good skater, because skateboarding is about precision, but also about being kind of aggressive in how you skate. One big thing that we noticed is, as well as having volunteers to teach, we wanted to get away from that model, so we didn't rely on an international help, and we still do aim for that. But also, we over time realized that they weren't just there to teach, but like anywhere in the world, if you go to Barcelona or Berlin or Copenhagen, where like Sandy's been the past week, these places are hubs because everyone comes to skate and meet there, and we still want that to happen in Palestine. So we organized the first professional skateboard trip. This is the Isle team that came to did a tour of the West Bank, Palestine, and we got kids out and they did demos in the skate park. And what was quite nice is they treated them just like any other skater. I've not been like, oh wow, look who it is, but all right, come and like watching me and skate with me. And so after these experiences, we kind of felt that, right, okay, even though having the volunteers is not how we're doing a volunteer thing, it's still bringing together that sort of feeling of, as Sandy was saying, the kind of collective spirit of like, we're all in this together. We're not telling you what to do, but we're having fun all together. And I think that's one reason why, as SkatePal, we've managed to do quite well in the local communities. We don't come in saying, we've got skills, we're going to teach you what it is. We're going, can we come and play with you? And then we can like, we can learn Arabic off you and like learn how to cook some food, and you can watch us skate. And not all the volunteers are going to be better than the skaters in Palestine. It's more meeting people that like benefits everyone altogether. The last park we built was in the northwest in a town called Jayus, close to the border. So just behind the picture, you can see Israel, like 100 yards away over the wall. This we did in conjunction with a local skate group called SkatePal that like started a few years after us. And what we like to do, if we can, is to do a project in conjunction, always with the local council and also with a local NGO or local group, so we can pass over control to them, so it doesn't rely on us anymore. But we still send internationals and like say, oh, you should go and visit this place and this place and this place. And obviously this skate park is one of the places that we tell people to go and visit. Another quite interesting thing about what we're trying to do, and of course there's many skateboard NGOs and collectives in the world, and each one is doing a slightly different thing. So if you were like, for example, the NGOs that I've had connections with, like Free Movement Skateboarding, working with refugees in Athens, it's a way to try to integrate refugees in the community and give them something to do, whether it's Women Skate the World, who are trying to get specifically girls and women into skateboarding, whether it's SkateStan, which is using skateboarding as a hook for education in different areas, or whether it's, say, SkatePal, which is trying to create a skateboard scene where there wasn't one before. We all have quite different angles, and so what our methods that we might use are going to look quite different, but also overlap in the fundamental ways of bringing together a community which is reliant just on itself and not relying on grants and other volunteers. And one thing that kind of goes a bit against the grain for us is we realize that we could be doing small individual builds in villages for 100 years, but you wouldn't build a scene that would then take care of itself. So we have to also work in the more urban areas where people objectively have a bit more money, might not be as objectively worse off. But if we want the people that are more disadvantaged to be able to be part of the scene, we have to also grow the scene in places where it has the most success of taking off. And so again, this is like a fine line to walk between not, giving help to people that don't need help, but also making sure that you invest enough time in the places where it is going to take off, and then they can have their own scene. So people that are, say, privileged enough to have a stable background, that then they can continue to skate and do it like, as a job and not have to work all the time as well. And also we work with everyone. We don't focus just on one, but we didn't want to we didn't want to not work with certain people due to specific reasons, but basically make it free and open to anyone. And one thing that we do place a big focus on is making sure we have as many girls and boys skating all together, because in most places it's mainly boys, but when you start off at the same level, obviously they progress at the same level, and like girls and boys are just as good as each other, which seems obvious, but a lot of people you speak to think, oh no, like boys are better, because they see way more men skating, so they've had like a lot more time to skate and to get better. But once you start from the beginning, from scratch, and you say, oh, it's because they haven't had the same chances to skate, and so that's been a very encouraging aspect. We've still managed to have almost a half and half, girls and boys, in the sessions there. And finally, I think the crucial aspect, again, as Sandy was saying, is that you have to become not just another NGO/organization which is there to promote you and to like bring us salary, but you have to be ingrained in the community. So the fact that I studied Arabic before I could speak the language, I studied like Islamic studies, so I knew the culture. I'd been there. I studied in Damascus. I lived in Tunisia, and obviously I had friends in Palestine. This wouldn't have worked if I didn't have some level of legitimacy in the eyes of the people in which I worked. So I think if other people are thinking of doing something similar, there's really no replacement for spending time in the place that you want to work, learning the cultures and learning about the customs and religions and the languages before you want to do anything. Because once you have that, it makes things a lot easier. And when you don't have that, people are going to be a bit skeptical, as they should be, because you haven't invested enough. So it's basically skin in the game. You have to have skin in the game to make things work. And it looks like that's despite maybe the differences in how we both, Sandy and I, are operating and like are doing things, that is the fundamental difference, which I think you need to think about if you want to do something like this. So thanks very much.
Thank you. That was amazing. That was super, super interesting hearing all about the journey of SkatePal. I learned, obviously, when I emailed you, I heard a bit about SkatePal from Brainchild, and now seeing like all of these gaps be filled, it's super interesting. And it's also really cool to see how you and Sandy have some correlations and some ways you do things differently, and like how you both are in the skateboarding scene, but like how they operate in kind of similar but very different manners. And I just have one question to fire off. Well, I have two, but I'm going to go for one and I'll actually one at the end. So when you're talking about, as you mentioned, how you sort of have to build the culture first in places where it might be, I guess, more well off. I'm interested to how you sort of measure that social architecture to see a sort of like a positive relationship with disadvantaged communities. So when you are building these skate parks, how do you then measure that, you know, these skate parks are still having some sort of connection and relationship with people from more disadvantaged regions?
Thanks. Yeah, good question there. I mean, up till now, we have all the parks we've built have been in sort of village settings where people have been like more disadvantaged. But the next park that we're building, we're hoping to do it in Ramallah, which is a more wealthy town. It's one of the bigger towns and sort of the de facto capital of the West Bank. And so I think one idea we have, or the experience we have, is we have built in the villages, and that's great. It's harder for them to sort of connect because traveling around the West Bank presents its own problems in terms of checkpoints and whatever. But we need to have the sort of the cultural hub, which in most places is going to be like a wealthier area. You need to have people there who are going to be committed to it, and then potentially going to commit time and money to like develop into a shop and into a scene. So it kind of goes a bit against the grain to sort of maybe invest in what you would see as more middle class neighborhoods, but we don't like work specifically in those neighborhoods because they are middle class. But we looked at where can we do it where we think we can have a base which is going to be stable. And often places which are stable are going to be places which are not as disadvantaged. So like most of our sites are in places which are more in need, but we want to be building the more stable base in a place which is in effect, it's not as in need, but it's more stable. And then they can do other classes. Like it's more effective for the future, like local skaters to do classes in the refugee camps than it is for, say, Scottish volunteers to do it, because they've got a lot more of an idea as to how it works, I suppose.
Yeah, that super makes sense. Just like there is the element of what's the word? A more secure longevity. Super, super interesting. Sandy, do you have any thoughts or questions about the presentation?
I have so many, I just need to pick one. So first, Charlie, it's amazing. I didn't know the whole story, but I follow you on social media, of course, and I just wanted to say thank you first, because I think you really understand the process of working organically, and the fact that you learn the language and stuff. I really admire you, and I think you really understand, like me, how is it really important to be involved, and take time. I think people don't value time, and I think in every project of skateboarding, it's really important because skateboarders don't give the trust, easily. And I think they are really open-minded, but in the same way, they don't trust, the normal process. They don't like opportunists. And I think they make you, they let you know really, really fast that they don't like it. And I just wanted to say thank you because for the community, it's really important to respect them. And I think in the process that you use, it's really fantastic to see the whole step, that you use to develop the community. And I just wanted to know more about, you know, working the sustainability actually. How do you develop the sustainability of that project? I mean, maybe you think about it previously, and maybe that's why you want to do it in the center actually, or maybe in more developed area. But I will be really happy that you share your vision about sustainability of that kind of project.
Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, good question. I mean, at the beginning, I think, as I said, I didn't think about how it was going to be sustainable. I only realized the problems to the model when I found the problems. And I was like, right, we can't rely on this, we can't rely on that. We need to have, for example, we need to have a skateboard shop there. Once they have a way of having a skate shop, then they don't need anyone else. But getting things in through the Israeli borders is super difficult, and that's been our main challenge up till now. So I would say that is sort of, and also because it's because we're developing a scene from nothing. Most of the skaters are really young, and a lot of the older ones leave because I mean I'd want to leave if I could as well. If you're living in a place which is not that great. And so we're lucky that Aram is there because he's one of the only older skaters who's being the manager. But it's quite difficult for him because he's on his own and doesn't have a whole crew around. So it's going to be a number of years before it develops into a full scene. And I mean, we're going to be taking a bit of a step back in terms of being SkatePal presence, and we're hoping to help the local skaters set up their own enterprises and shops. I also thought it was interesting how you spoke about not moving too quickly. I think one of the reasons why this worked is because I'm awful at social media and websites and internet. Because at the beginning, I had an awful website. I didn't have Instagram. I still don't have Instagram on my own. And so I didn't really publicize what I was doing for years until I had someone else who could do it for me. So by that stage, people knew I wasn't really in it for my own, look at me, because I physically didn't know how to do it. And I wasn't interested in doing that. That's not look at my great plan. That's just a lack of skills, which I worked out somehow.
Thank you so much. But I understand you about social media, but for the Black community, actually, it's the contrary. That community online really helped us. So, but I really like your point of view, and I would be really happy to help you on the sustainability of the project, actually, because this is also how what I was doing for the past 2 years, working on that process in particular.
That'd be great. Well, it'd be good to have another chat with you afterwards as well about all this.
Amazing. So to kick off a few more questions, obviously when you're setting up something and you're doing it for the love and passion, and then sometimes it grows in something much larger than yourselves, obviously things like anxiety and any other sort of, I guess, mental effects, it's so natural to arise. And I was just wondering, how did you overcome these sort of challenges, if you did experience any of them? Charlie, would you like to start?
Sure. Good question again, and one which I did. I mean, I almost stopped SkatePal about 2 or 3 times in the first 3 years because I was coming. I think one of the issues was I was working. There was no one that skated. Some people I was working with didn't really understand what was going on, and also, if you come in saying, "Oh, I've got a project," and the whole area is inundated with NGOs and charitable projects, the people that you're working with are going to have feelings of being patronized because they need help, and 2, envious that they are not the ones that be able to give help. And once you can understand these dynamics in the whole in global aid and global helping, then you can start to not take things personally and not be right, they're out to get me because they hate me. but going like, well, this is how things work in the world. So I think once that happens, and I think also setting my expectations a bit, or setting my expectations high, but set my goals like lower, because I think I tried to do too much too quickly. Because we also set up this entity called Pushing Borders, which was like a skateboard conference. So we, with a few other groups, set that up in 2019 or 18. And that was just like doing 2 full-time jobs. And you can quickly get into the thing of just being like yes to everything. Because once you've had a bit of success, you go, oh, I can do everything. And you can't. And I had like a bit of a breakdown at the end of that, to take a bit of a breather. But now we chat a lot about don't take on more than you can, take enough breaks, don't work at the weekends. But you only really learn that by making a mistake. Often a lot of mistakes, you have to make them. But yeah.
100%, definitely. Yeah, sounds like, burnout is very real. So for everybody watching, drink your water and take your weekends off. That is for sure. Sandy, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I would like that. Working in Africa for skateboarding as a woman, wow, it's a lot of history challenge. Okay, let's be honest, we don't have federation. Nobody believe in skateboarding. It's like a white page, like I have to write everything. There are a lot of people who practice, but no one really work on a project, so it's really hard to convince men in the sport industry to convince them, to say that that's happening, but with Olympic Games, let's be honest, it will help us to launch a conversation at least. So that was my first challenge. And the second challenge is like, it's education, even about Africa and the relationship between other countries, because we had so many people who came in the past bringing the shoes and the t-shirt and saying that they're going to save and develop the skate scene, and they just go on holidays and they go back, then coming back home, and me, I'm trying to explain to them that we're not going to receive shoes and t-shirt now. We're going to work, and this is why brands going to come. That's a totally different perspective. And half of the skateboarders, they didn't understand that in the first place, because they wanted to receive a lot of gifts, unfortunately, because of the past of colonialism, etc. And me, I was trying to say like, stop guys, we are working right now, we're going to do skate lesson, you're going to learn skateboarding, cinematography, how to take pictures of skateboarding, etc. And you're going to make your own money. We're going to create a virtuous ecosystem, like. And I think now we have a skate shop in Ghana, even if it's online, it's cool. We have like opportunity with brand, but we developed that. And I think it's really important, but it was one of the first challenge. And I think it's still one challenge, but we are working on it.
Definitely, it sounds a lot like having a strong tunnel vision with like chaos going on around it and just making sure like there is an end goal. But just actually jumping on the back of that, of like when you're saying, some people wanted to kind of receive the free gifts and not do the hard work, and you have to sort of like get them back in line of just like, no, we are doing the work because there's a stronger and longer goal here. Sorry, where's my question? 1 second. So how do you maintain a group morale as a collective rather than a hierarchy when you are growing like larger? So like it might have started off smaller, but like how do you sort of keep that collective, non-hierarchical sense when the group's growing larger, but you're trying to keep the mindset the same?
It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard because now on social media, for example, the opportunity doesn't come only from me. At the beginning, I was bringing opportunity, but now, when I started, for example, I was the only one who have like a proper Instagram account. Now, like every skateboarder has an Instagram account, so everybody contact them directly. So the thing is like different opportunity bring you crazy, like wow, I can make that money, and I'm trying to say that guys, we're in the skate industry, like money doesn't bring anything really good. It's more like the value, as what we can build, like the creativity. So I try to push that first, but I also understand that you can lose some soul, like you can lose some soul, and I accept it. It's the same in everywhere in the world. It's not like specifically in Africa. We have now we have people who compete. You will always have skateboarders who prefer skate edit and video and stuff. It's just like there is different family, and you need to accept that. And when I lose 2 or 3 souls, I managed to get like maybe 100, or maybe no, not 100, but maybe 10 more, you know, like coming. The new generation is coming because they follow our adventure and they really want to join the collective. So I'm always positive about the fact that everybody wants to be independent. And when they see the value of the collective, they also want to grow by themselves. They want to grow alone. They want to work with different people. And I really accept that. And I think it's also our role to say that we are a collective. We are not managing everybody. It's just a good push. Again, my main goal is to let them become independent, you know. So I really respect that also.
Yeah, super respect that. It sounds a lot like it's a really family thing, like you grow together and then some people leave the nest, you know what I mean? So no, I really, really respect that. Going back on both your presentations, there were mentions of, you know, brands having some sort of role or XYZ. And I've been thinking a lot about this personally, sort of like, well, I know especially in London, a lot of brands are now offering much like loads more grants to independent or more disadvantaged artists and stuff. And it's like brands are almost becoming like these new governments. So how important is it for these brands to take on the role of a government when providing funding or support when the state fails? Sandy, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, let's be honest. So far, I didn't manage to involve any organization, any institution in the project. I sent thousands of emails, but it doesn't work. So that's why for me, involving brand, it's the first step. But I think it's everywhere in the world. Like, you know, skateboarding started like this with brand, and after that, naturally, you have institution who take more time, it's more politics, etc. So it's the normal process, and I just need to fix boundary, you know, like in a way to set up like, okay, we are doing this, and you will do it that, and we have like we work like, you know, efficiently, but we really respect each other, you know. Like, I think me, every time I work with brand, I make sure that they understand that we are the leader, you know, we are the leader. And but also what is really interesting is to work with international brand and local brand are totally different, because, you know, in Ghana, if you get sponsored by a brand, the brands want you to be everywhere, on the cap, on the t-shirt. It's like you're working for McDonald's and stuff like this. It's just crazy. But international brand, to be honest, they don't really pay attention to all that details. They just want to be part of it. They just want to have a logo, want to have a great content. So it's different perspective, but it's also a good process for skateboarders to understand, like, there is different level of participation, collaboration with brand, and we need to adapt. Now the most important thing is the capacity to adapt to different projects, to different level of conversation. And what is interesting, for example, is like when we started the project, I was the only one making interview. Now all the skateboarders are doing interview, you know, they can talk, they can lead a conversation, they're getting self-confidence, etc. So I'm just happy that even with the government, etc., we will be able to launch a conversation, not with me only, with Joshua, one of the first skateboarders, but also girls who skate right now. So it's part of the process, but with the collective and that structure, it will be easy to launch a conversation because we are numbers right now.
It's like it's not one single voice, it's like an entire legacy of voices which will keep coming. Yeah, super, super important. I guess that's kind of like the core of any sort of collective in the world, is like to have some sort of legacy which people can look back on, connect with, reflect on, and then pass on and stuff. So yeah, I really respect that. Charlie, would you like to add anything else onto that question? Oh, you're on mute.
Apologies. We don't really work with brands so much in the same way, but I mean, I think, you know, we, in terms of like SkatePal, we're trying to create our own brand in terms to like fundraise. But my hope is that like more of the skaters in Palestine, as they get older, and they want to sort of continue in that way, they'll be able to maybe get sponsorship or work with brands and sort of like be able to publicize who they are as an individual or have their own collectives. But I kind of want all that to happen outside of our framework, because I think it has to happen outside of that for it to be sort of successful. But I think there's a lot of scope, because I'm not sure, it's probably going to be quite a long time before the government or any like larger institutions do a lot with skateboarding in Palestine, because it's quite a niche thing, and also it's very new in the country. So I don't think we're going to be looking to that, really. Yeah.
Interesting. So do you think skateboarding is kind of seen as like not profitable, or why do you think like governments won't look to it?
I think it's like still relatively unknown. I mean, the fact that it's in the Olympics now, has given it a lot more, has shone like a bigger light on it being like an actual like path to potentially having a career. So maybe some of the older people and my parents, for example, they would see kids getting involved in a sport which you can get a job with as more worthwhile spending your time doing than something which is just like a hobby. So I think that's maybe got something to do with it. And also, unless you do skate, it's very hard to see the benefits of it, because the sort of the culture surrounding skateboarding is very much like against the man or against like the authority. And so like institutions with authority are probably instinctively going to be anti-skateboarding because they don't really know what it is. And also part of the skateboarding is anti-authority. So there's less incentive for them to want to do it in some ways, I suppose.
Interesting, yeah, makes sense. I know we are coming to the end of this amazing talk. So I do have 2 more questions for both of you. It's very, very obvious that our entire planet in all different parts of the regions are becoming quite bleak, especially for my generation and younger, looking into the future. If it's climate crisis, I guess like war, political corruption, XYZ, we are seeing so much of it right now, which is definitely creating this really bleak and scary future. So I'm really interested to hear from both of you. What is the future of skateboarding and what do you see in store? Would you like to start, Sandy?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 2 things, 2 adjectives. The future of skateboarding is spicy, okay? Because there is new African skateboarding scene coming, and I can't wait to share that to the world, really, because there is a lot of potential. And I think the future of skateboarding is also sustainable in a way that now we are not developing only pro athletes, we are developing an industry, specifically in Africa. And it's also really interesting to learn different job and career opportunity like shaper, filmmaking, photography, etc., writing, being judged, etc. And I'm really excited to see that. So I will say that to end the conversation.
I love that you said it's spicy. I like that. That's wicked. Charlie, what about you?
Well, I tend to try to stay away from the idea that the future is like super bleak. I find that it's easy to think it's going to be super bleak because we're so inundated with like social media and like media saying how bleak it is, where in actual fact there's like a lot of good stuff that's happening as well. And I think the sort of evolution of skateboarding is one of the good things. I mean, I know there was a big sort of debate in the skate world about in the Olympics, is it going to make it like, is it like sellout, blah blah blah? Is it going to retain like the key feature of what it means to be to be a skater? But if it means that more people get into it, I mean, like we know that it's given us a lot. It's given us like friends, a drive. Like a lot of our life is like down to that. So if more people can experience that, and as Sandy was saying, they can like get jobs within the industry and make it grow. I don't think, as long as there's a key number of people that are really dedicated to what skateboarding is about, which I think I don't think that's ever going to go away. Things like the Olympics or like big competition skateboarding, it's always been there, but it's probably going to be like a minor part on the skateboarding scene, and I think rightly a minor part, because skateboarding is a lot more than like winning and losing, but it's about a community, and I think that's never going to change.
Definitely, super great. Love that. Yeah, it's I guess like the strongest thing is the community, and nothing can really break that. And I guess to close our lovely conversation, I would like to ask you both to say, what are the 3 principles of building a strong collective, to sort of end on a little manifesto for our audience to sort of take away. Charlie, would you like to start with that?
Sure, thanks. So I think one of the key things is to, again, in my experience, to have skin in the game. So like show that you're there. You're not just there, as Sandy was saying, to give some shoes on the board and go home, but you're there to like learn about the people, spend time with the people, and make friends. The second thing is make sure that what you're doing it in the right way. So you're not doing it for money or for a career. I'm not continuing SkatePal just so I have a job, but you are spending your time doing it in the right way so that people want to do it and people are wanting to skate. And then thirdly, I think for me, it's that How do you make it sustainable so that they don't rely on you anymore? So I think if you have those 3 things in place, and more importantly, if the people that you're working with know that those are your goals, then I think that is the key to making it work.
Wicked stuff. I love that. Sandy, would you like to close with your 3 statements?
Yes, I would like to say that the best strategy to build a community for me is to do everything for us by us. Yes, that's how I'm going to end this conversation, because I feel it's involving all the process that we really care about, like the community, inclusivity, humility, respect, we're listening, we brainstorm and everything. So yeah, for us by us is really important.
Thank you both for that amazing conversation and presentations. Big up Trippin for introducing me to your work, Sandy, and big up Brainchild for introducing me to your work, Charlie. I hope you both have a lovely day. And I've just got to close up with a small summary from forgot where I nearly worked there for a second, from Somerset House, as we are now rounding up for the summer, but stay in touch by joining us on a monthly newsletter, which you can sign up to at the bottom of the Somerset House website page, and keep up to date with Upgrade Yourself program. Actually, before we go, Sandy and Charlie, are there any things people should be looking out for on your social media, any ways for people to get involved, any exciting events coming up, or anybody else you want to plug? Sandy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so you can check our page on Instagram, Surf Ghana. This way you can follow our adventure and, follow the journey of the construction of the skate park, which is going to be launched in November. And you can donate on freedomskatepark.org. Thank you.
Amazing, wicked. Charlie?
Thanks. If you want to head to skatepal.co.uk, you can see all the links to our socials. And hopefully next year we'll start our international volunteer program again. So if you have any interest in being a volunteer in Palestine or in London, we also run some classes as well with migrants, then please get in touch via the website, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you both, that was wicked. And enjoy this your evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next semester. See you later, everybody.
See you.